Rosemont. Game 2 of the doubleheader tonight featuring 45's and Future. And this Future team, it'll be interesting to see. Young group. They do got a lot of bodies out here, which is always a good sign. But 45's are going to be pretty much the same lineup, except Isidro De Santiago had to go to work. So he's not going to be here for this second game of the night. Again, for those of you tuning in from around the country, if this is your first exposure, this is 16-inch style softball, leading off Anthony Sanchez. And Anthony humpbacks a hit as he pulls it in front of the right fielder for the first hit of the ball game. Joe Vandervoos got it in. So you may recognize some of these guys from when they won that SSA playing for Peace Class B National Championship. Here's Moretti. 45's trying to go to 4-0. So this is Chicago's 16-inch style softball. You're seeing it correctly. No gloves. This is a 16-inch clincher. And there's a hard ground ball to the short center. Second baseman couldn't get there in time, so Anthony Sanchez able to get over there as the short center was going toward the ball. So that's going to be the first out, and that's going to bring up Nate Mercado, the runner on second base. And Nate delivers a hit toward the alley, cut off, and now it gets past Vandervoos. Nate Mercado, showing he can still wheel, gets all the way around to third on the play. 1-0 45's early in this one. And that's going to bring up Scotty. Again, the 45's have got themselves a pretty good lineup. So again, 16-inch style softball, no gloves, 60-foot bases, leadoff can't steal. And there's a hard ground ball, and Scotty drives it between third and short. Second run of the inning scores 2-0 45's. And it brings up Billy Smith. 38 feet from the rubber to home. 6-12 on the arc. Because we're playing no glove, the pitcher gets a drag step, and Billy Smith goes high and deep and gone as Billy Smith hits a 2-run bomb, and the 45's have jumped up 4-zip. So we're playing no glove. Pitcher gets a drag step, one step left, right, or back. Two fakes or hesitation. Third arm action must deliver the ball home. Throw or fake to a base is one of those fakes or hesitations. We are in a domed field here. It's all turf. Very short fence, both dimension-wise and height-wise. And Chris Lentine walks the dog down the left field line. So the 45's have come out swinging it. Brings up Joe Pauly. So 210 down the line, 235 to dead center field. That fence out there is maybe 3.5 feet tall. And because of the short dimensions, shortest dimensions we play on all season, you're only allowed 4 home runs. So Joe Pauly swings. He delivers a base hit. And the 45's are trying to break this open. 8th hitter coming up in Danny Villarreal. And because of those dimensions, you can only hit 4 home runs. If the ball hits the rough, fair territory. And here's Villarreal, and he drives a hit. Lentine's gonna try to score, and he'll make it. Cut off by the pitcher. 5-0 45's. That's going to bring up Israel Sanchez, 9th hitter of the inning for the 45's. You know, and because we have a rough final rule, and there's a little soft fly ball, and Vandervoos can't get there, and it dropped. 1 run is in, another runner going to head to third. 6-0 45's. And that's going to bring up Mike Marola. And the 45s have spun the lineup. Joe Nixon going to come out here and talk to Anthony Stacy. And because we're playing with the roof, any ball that hits the roof in fair territory is live. If you catch it before it hits the ground, it's an out. If it hits the ground, it's all you can get. So here's Mike Marola. Well, actually, they are hitting 11, so Chuck Regaldo on deck. So they haven't quite spun the lineup yet. And there's a swing, and he drops it into right field. Another run scores. So Mike Marola just served it up, and it brings up Chuck Regaldo. Now the 45s have completely gone through their lineup one time. And Chuck swings and hits a high fly ball caught by the right fielder, and he'll throw it in for out number 2. So the 12th hitter of the inning, Anthony Sanchez. No, Amalia, Future's been around for a while. A few years back, they won the SSA Class B Playing for Peace National Championship. It was actually the first tournament that they ever entered. They had a lot of guys that have played a lot of high school baseball, and unfortunately they had a little trouble. And there's a swing and a ground ball. Another run's going to score, and now the ball gets away, and Mike Marola ends up scoring 2 runs on that, 9-0. And you can see right now that the Future guys seem to, wondering what happened here. And here's Jimmy Moretti. th hitter of the inning, and Jimmy drops a hit, throw to the plate, not in time, 10-0 45s. So sometimes when you're a younger group, you sit back and you think to yourself, cool, we won the toss, and then a veteran team like the 45s come out and drops a big crooked number on you, and all of a sudden you have that tendency to hang your head a little bit. So here's a change of pitcher as Anthony Stacy going to go play third base. Of course, Anthony is a 45, or not a 45, a flashback guy. I'm not aware of him having left. So I'm going to take this opportunity to grab a little water, folks. So here's Nate Mercado, as the 45s have just really unloaded. And there's a long, high drive to center, and it stays in the park. And if you're a Future fan, merciful, is that a word? The inning comes to a close. But 10 runs. Now, the only good news if you're a Future is A, you have not hit yet, and B, you got a lot of time. So I got a shoelace that needs to be tied. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this. Hold a stick. I got to tie a shoelace. Hold this too. Yeah, why don't you do that? Because I don't know if I can get back up. So I feel like I'm 2 years old again, and my dad is tying my shoe. It's a little different tying it from not tying it from behind, ain't it?
Now you're on the SSA payroll.
Nice, thank you. My guy. Of course, he accepted the award for his father at the Hall a few years ago, and we did a real nice interview with him that night, and he was very shook up. So leading off, Joey Kutnick, the center fielder, then Jack Cafaro, who runs the ball club, and then Anthony Stacy. So, again, there's a swing and a base hit. So leadoff man on, and that's really all you got to do. If you're a future, you just got to string some hits together. And you just got to worry about putting a few runs up and then hope you can slow the 45's down enough to get back into the fight a little bit. And there's a hard ground ball over to Mercado, dropped by Moretti at short center. Everybody's safe. And, of course, Joey Kutnick can run. And Nate did a good job, but part of that was Kutnick sliding in there. Here's Stacy. And Anthony tries to go deep, and he puts a quick 3 up, and it's 10-3. So Anthony Stacy, and that's when you want to hit him, folks. You only got 4. So you're looking for bases loaded or 2 runners. And Stacy got a pitch up around the letters and just laid the barrel on it and rode it out of here. 10-3. So here's Ryan Rogers, Sam Como, and then Pat Donahue. And that's so far a nice little answer here. And there's a swing and another base hit, this time up the alley. Chuck got there in a hurry. And that's probably a good decision there by Ryan Rogers, as Chuck Regaldo, one of the better defensive outfielders, got to it in a hurry. And here's Sam Como. Sam playing first base tonight. So first 4 hitters, three of them have scored, and there's a high long bomb the other way, and that's high in the net. 10-5 ball game. Now it's nice if you're future because you put some runs up, and that's not horrible, a 2-run homer, but they have used 2 of their 4. So you got to keep an eye on that. And of course, 45's got a few guys that can go yard as well. And there's a swing opposite field, but Sanchez will be there. So that's the first out of the inning as Pat Donahue flies out the other way, and it brings up JT Redis. I'm not sure if JT's back with them this year or not. He did leave last year. And JT goes hard to the gap. That's down. That'll be at least 2. JT, a long strider. He's kind of a tall, thin kid. And I got to tell you, I like this future team. They got good athletes. They could be a problem in that A division if Mike Darty is watching. And here's Joe Vandervoos, the right fielder. And there's a long fly ball to the gap, and Anthony can't get there, hits the wall. Ball stayed in play, 1 run is in, and this is going to be an inside the park home run. Holy mackerel. Great chase there by Sanchez in right. See on the replay, he got a hand on it. That ball was close to popping over the fence, but it stayed in play, and it ended up being an old-fashioned inside the park home run, and all of a sudden it's 10-7. So Amalia looks like the future looking a little better. So here comes Armando Lara, This is the 9th hitter of the inning. And there's a little chopper up the middle coming in as Villarreal, and he'll make the play for out number 2. So 10th hitter, Jordan Pers. So both teams have gone through the lineup in the first at-bat. 45's ended up hitting 14 guys, and they scored 10. And there's a ground ball to Moretti, and that'll do it. So Future hits 10 and scores 3. And we're going to head to the top of the second. And if the game doesn't settle in, this could be a slugfest. So I like that the Future Club just came out hammering line drives. They got a couple of big bombs, 3 run by Stacy, 2 run by Sam Como. They put 5 out of 7 on the board, and they worked their way back in. Now it'll be Jordan Pers's job to try to slow down this 45 attack. But that's a good response, and you know, it's interesting. I think a lot of teams that are 8 teams might kind of look at the fact that they were down and maybe gone in the shell, but Future just came out and banged the ball around, and they're right back in the game, only down 3. So it'll be Scotty, Billy, and Chris. So I did not know that Isidro was going to work, and Scotty hits a ground ball up the middle. And again, that's a perfect example. The second baseman was shaded toward first a hair. You got the short center, and he's kind of where he ought to be there, but the problem is Jordan Pers, there's a big hole up the middle, and he's not dropping into it. And there's a little ground ball, foot race to first, and Billy Smith had to slow down there or it was going to be ugly. They do get the out at first, as Billy Smith ended up sliding. You all right, Bill? Huh? Yeah, well, that would have been ugly. A couple of big boys banging heads there, but
it's too early for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yes, not in the dome, baby, not in the dome. And I think part of that is the angle that the first baseman had. He couldn't really run up the line. He almost had to cross over because of his momentum. And Chris Lentine pokes it the other way. Scotty's going to score. 45's pick up another run. 11-7. And here comes Joe Pauly. So it's very interesting. Talked to Larry Downs before the previous 45 game, and Joe hits it. Vandervoos makes the catch. Then he slipped as he was planning to throw, but he gets it back in. No harm, no foul. So here's Villarreal. Larry actually said in that 50 and over last week when they were getting in the championship game, Larry kind of fell down running, and he kind of banged his head a little bit as that was in our front yard there. Actually said he had a little bit of a concussion, so he was not active today. He came out to watch. And in between games, I did get a chance to talk to Isidro a little bit. And I gave him a hug and told him that relax and to have a fun and smile. And that is, you wouldn't have brought him in if you didn't think he could play. So he smiled a little bit, and I think he appreciated it. So little ground ball, handled over there by the short center, pitch and catch. So Pat Donahue makes the play. Billy grounds out. Danny grounds out. 45's do pick up a run, 11-7. So now if you are the top of the lineup here, Joe Kutnick, Jack Cafaro, and Anthony Stacy. So now I think if you are future, you got to keep that same mindset and come out here and bang the ball a little bit. You may not necessarily get another 7 spot, but you'd like to keep a little pressure on the 45's and maybe get a run or two. Obviously, if you could tie or take a lead, you'd take it, but we've seen a lot of these games when both teams will come out in the first, maybe second inning firing, and then all of a sudden the game really settles down and slows down. So we'll see what happens in this one. And there's a swing opposite way, but it'll drift foul. Tried to inside out that swing. Just let the ball get a hair too deep there, and by the time he swung, the barrel was lagging so much it had no chance to keep the ball fair. And that's a weird swing because a lot of times you'll see guys step in the bucket and hit it the other way. And there's a little chopper to Villarreal, and he makes the play. You'll see a guy step in the bucket and throw his hands at that ball, hitting it the other way. There he was, pretty much taking a regular stride and just tried to inside out it. So here's Jack Cafaro. And Jack swings, little one hopper, and Villarreal, long throw for a second baseman, but Danny started out as an outfielder. Tell that story all the time. First time I saw him was at Harrison Park. He was playing center field. Here's Anthony Stacy, 3-run bomb his last time up. Anthony got a lot of pop. This is really not the time you want to see Anthony go deep here. You're down to 2 home runs, and he tried to take a little off his swing, and it gets down and bounces over for a ground roll double. Billy's brother Alex still plays, primarily out in Kennedy Park. They got a weird rule for that Papa Hops tournament that we stream from every year. And that is, if you're a major player on a major team, it restricts how many players, major players, a team can pick up. So Alex, a neighborhood kid, knocked down by Mercado, and he makes the play. So Ryan Rogers grounds out. And we're going to head to the top of the third. No change in the score. 45 still leading. Alex, see, that kid is terrific. A terrific player. If he was still coming out and playing here for the 45's, there's no doubt he'd be one of the top 5-6 players in the game. Lightning fast, absolute cannon, and can hit with just about anybody. And I'm always proud to say that he did play on Mudville, and I took him to his first No Glove National tournament with one of my Mudville teams. And he went 2 for 3 pinch hitting that weekend. And the one out he made was against Flashback when Johnny Westermeyer absolutely robbed him on a ball that looked like it was going to go over his head at third and down the left field line, probably for a double. Yeah, I recruited Alex and Colby just could never get him. Colby Fox, there's a name from the past. And there's a little ground ball. Jordan Purrs, not in time, as Israel beat it out. Little soft liner. I think Jordan got fooled by. You can't teach speed, Iz. Israel got a little grin out of him. I think Jordan got fooled there. I think he thought that ball was hit a little bit harder than it was and kind of threw his hands up. The ball wasn't quite there, and when it did hit, it just kind of fumbled and it scored it away just far enough. So here's Mike Marola, and Mike hammers it down the line, base hit. So Mike has been off to a good start so far in the Dome. So he's gotten quite a few hits, hitting down in the lineup, but he's getting on base and doing his job. And brings up Chuck Regaldo. We told you in the first game, these bottom three guys were doing a lot of damage, and they're up to their old tricks again. And there's a ground ball, flipped to second for one. No chance to get Chuck at first, but they get the fielder's choice. So here's Anthony Sanchez, top of the lineup. Runners on the corner now, one out. 45's looking for more. Let's go. And there's a swing the other way, long run, and JT a little juggling catch, and they're going to go to third. Double play. They said he left early. I don't know if I got that on the replay. JT Redis made the catch. Now remember, folks, you can leave the second he touches it. So I'm not sure. Again, I got a small view of it, and it's on the other side. Those of you at home might be able to see that. I think I had both JT and the runner in the shot there. But they call it a double play, and it ends the inning. So as a result, and you know, I think now Jamie's been around a long time. He's a good umpire. Sometimes when a guy goes into a slide, you may not exactly be sure of when he actually touched it, and the ball did pop up, so you never know if a guy is moving into position and maybe doesn't see the tip, but sees the ball on the way down after the tip and thinks that that was the catch. So certainly bang, bang, a lot of stuff going on. Meanwhile, leadoff man is on. And there's a weird spinner knocked down by Paulie. Everybody's safe. So that ball looked like it was hit off the end of the bat. Paulie dove, couldn't make the play. Everybody's safe. Nobody out here, first and second for JT Redis. So Sam and Pat reach. And Redis goes oppo, and Mike Marola can't make the catch. And that'll load the bases. Now they're going to throw behind, and they tag Redis. And they get an out anyway. So the base runners had to wait to see the catch. JT was running all the way. He didn't pay attention to the fact that the runners had stopped. And what should have been a bases loaded, nobody out situation ends up second and third and one out. And here's the leadoff man, Joe Krutnick. Another run scores, throw to third, and he drops the ball. So 11-8. Yeah, they're pretty much standardized bases. Well, it depends on what you mean, Jason, by standardized bats. And there's a high, towering fly ball. Sanchez is there, and he puts it away. So Anthony Lara flies out to end the inning, and we're going to head to the top of the fourth. For a 16-inch, they're standardized bats, which means they can weigh up to 38 ounces, 2 1/4 inch on the barrel, no longer than 34 inches. These are not light bats. They're not light 12-inch bats. And be honest with you, if you're a 12-inch guy and you want to start playing a little 16-inch, either go out and have an old guy give you a 16-inch bat or bite the bullet, try to find one to buy. Because if you paid $400 or $500 for a 12-inch bat, this 16-inch ball will devastate your barrel, and after a few games, that bat won't be much good to you, and you'll be buying another $400 bat. So Moretti swings, he tops it back to Jordan Purz, who's actually done a nice job since he came in. He came in when it was 10-0. And they only scored 1 run since. Here's Nate Mercado. So after 17 runs in the first inning, well, you know, Jason, first of all, it's a fun game, and there's a ground ball. Nice play, pitch and catch, route number 2, and it brings up Scotty. Well, you can find them. Sometimes you'll see them on eBay. They do make them. I know there's a few. We might have to do that. Like our page or follow us, Jason, and I'll see who's making them, and maybe we'll drop some info on the Facebook page. Jordan Purz, forget about it. And that's Scotty's 3rd infield hit of the day. What is that, 3 on the day, infield? I thought your slap and run days were over, brother. And we'll drop it on there, and you can, you know, back in the day, 16-inch bats were cheap. There's a ground ball, and Stacy bobbles it. So with 2 outs, all of a sudden, a little trouble brewing. Looked like Future was going to have an easy 4th inning, but all of a sudden a couple of miscues. And now Chris Lentine can push that out. And there's a ground ball, and that's going to be the 3rd out. So they do wiggle off the hook. Well, actually, Jason, we do run a 1-day big ball Las Vegas getaway tournament. So if you go on our, I got to pin our schedule to the top of the Facebook page. But Ron Matriciano, it's usually the week after Columbus Day on a Saturday. In October, out at Las Vegas, I believe it's going to be at Desert Breeze. It's going to be our 10-year anniversary this year. So if you're in the Vegas area, keep following the page, and when we start posting that info, come on out and say hello. And there's a high fly ball. Well, we got a board member that lives out there, Ronnie Matriciano. So why don't you shoot me an email, Jason, And there's a swing opposite field. He walks the dog hard down that line. Base hit. So Kutnick throws it down the left field line. Send me an email at info@ssasoftball.com, Jason, and I can put you in touch with Ronnie Matriciano. And there's a ground ball kicked by Mercado. You don't see that very often. And here in the bottom of the fourth, here comes Stacy. They only got 2 dingers left, but again, 2 base runners. This would be the time you'd like to use one. And he could tie this thing up with 1 swing of the bat. And there's it goes. And that ball is gone. Stacy's second 2-run homer. And just like that, Future all the way back from a 10-0 deficit has tied the ball game. Well, Jason, we love it when people interact with us on the live stream. We kind of feel like it's one of the best things we do. And in the meantime, in the background, we got a hell of a ball game going on here, 11-11. And this is after this young Future team was down 10-0. And there's a ball hit back. Marola makes the catch. So Ryan Rogers goes deep. Now Future has hit 3 home runs. And they've gotten a total of 8 of their 11 off the home run. And there's a swing and a foul ball. Well, we're based out of Chicago, Jason, but there are a lot of teams in Iowa that play 16-inch. And there's a swing and a hard drive, but right to center. Chuck puts that away. So Sam Como hits a rocket. We're going to head now to the 5th. New ball game, tied at 11. And we actually have a sister organization under our umbrella, the Iowa Slow Pitch Softball Association. And we know there are teams in Southern Cal and Arizona that do play 16-inch. And so we're just spreading the gospel. We're a couple of followers and away from being at 36,000. So we like to think we're spreading the gospel. So Joe Pauly going to lead off here in the 5th. And Pauly hammers a hump back into left. So we have seen in the past sometimes with the 45's, they'll get a lead and maybe slow down a little bit until you really press them. And then they got a lot of good, solid veteran hitters. And all of a sudden, they'll put a crazy number on you. So here's Villarreal. And there's a bullet base hit. So the 45's, now that the game is tied, looks like they're shifting into serious mode. And here's Izzy Sanchez. And again, Izzy, Mikey, and Chuck, bottom 3 guys, have been excellent all evening. And there's a sky-high fly ball. Vandervoos can't make the catch. So he got there and he dropped it. And those of you that may wonder, just to clarify, now that was an outfielder, not an infielder. But had the second baseman got out there, it would not have been a infield fly rule because the ball was in foul territory. So here's Izzy Sanchez. And there's a little ground ball. He's going to go to third, throw across in time for an unconventional double play. 1-5-3. Big play here. And it brings up Mike Marola, who's been on fire. Future trying to keep this game tied and trying to wiggle off of a major hook. Marola, little soft fly ball and foul ball, not by much. I was waiting to see the umpire. He did yell foul. I didn't quite hear it. Usually umpires get very vocal and they make a point of making sure guys aren't running and doing crazy stuff. So Jordan Purrs trying to wiggle out of that first and second, nobody out, and Marola hits a fly ball. Redis calls it all the way and made an awkward catch. Center fielder peeled off Joey Kutnick, and I think JT lost sight of him and thought he was a little closer. He just kind of reached out and had to snag it. But they get out of the jam. They keep the score at 11-11. And we head to the bottom of the fifth now. So this future team hanging right in there. And again, this 45 club, they're going to be playing late on a few Sundays. So this would be quite the... There's a ground ball. Israel knocked it down, throws in top, safe. So Paulie couldn't hold on. Israel threw him. Strike. So the leadoff man, Pat Donahue, is on, and it brings up JT Redis. 7 innings, Jason. Usually our mercy rule is 10 after 5. Some tournaments may change that, and some leagues will change that. And Redis comes through with his second hit of the ball game. Yes, you can, Jim. These games are open to the public, and usually there is a lot of youth sports going on up until 8 o'clock, and they actually got a concession stand in here. And there's a swing and a little bloop. Center fielder, though, comes in quickly and makes the catch. So Vandervoos flies out. It looks like a pinch hitter. Not quite sure what his name is. So, yeah, you can come here. Again, this is easy to get to, and he strokes it down the line, but Marola, good read, makes the catch. Runners on the corner now with 2 outs. A little too much air. Now it looks like they got another pinch hitter here for Jordan Purrs.
Let's go, Bryce. Base hit here, Ted.
So big spot here in the 5th. Runners on the corner. And there's a little high fly ball. Nate Mercado taking charge. And that'll do it. So we're going to head to the 6th. Again, I think this would be a major confidence booster for future. Now, Anthony Stacy, I don't believe will be playing with them, and we are in a dome. So, of course, the offense is always going to be skewered a little bit in the sense that, you know, those home runs may not happen, but the rest of the future team, even with what Stacy's doing, you got to remember people had to get on for him, and they're hanging right in there and playing good softball. So it's going to be 11-1-2. Chuck Regaldo, Anthony Sanchez, and Jimmy Moretti as we're getting late here in the dome. 6th inning, all tied up. Again, the big story is Future was down 10-0 after a half an inning, and they've come all the way back to tie the ball game. fact, Jim, if you're not doing anything, feel free to come on out. I'm not sure if you know any of the players, but, and there's a ground ball to Stacy, and he makes that play for out number 1. Top of the lineup. And again, let's keep in mind that Futures hit 3 home runs. They only have 1 left. And I don't believe the 45's have hit any. And they got plenty of guys that can go yard. So, if you're Future, and there he shoots it the other way, but right at Redis, and that's out number 2, and it brings up Moretti. So if you're the Future, you certainly need to get some insurance. You need to hold him here, and you need to get some insurance in this bottom of the 6th. Because heading into the 7th, depending on what Moretti does, they might be at 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just looking at their lineup. They got several individuals. They get a base runner, and they can walk you off in a hurry. Moretti, line drive, and it got through the shortstop. Cafaro got a good read on it, put his hands on it, or reached out for it. And he's telling the guy, if you played basketball, you know what a two-hand chest pass looks like. And he's kind of telling Stacy at third, he put his hands out, and he's like, I just kind of pushed it instead of caught it. So here's Nate. He certainly has the pop to go yard. And he did. So Nate Mercado right on cue, not wasting any time, hits a 2-run bomb here in the top of the 6th. First home run for the 45's, and they take a 13-11 lead. And again, Jordan kind of flattened out a little bit there. Flattened out, and it was a little bit above the waist. Between the waist and the numbers, I should say. So the ball was already partially elevated. And there's a ground ball. Carfano, and they get Scotty for the 3rd out. But we're going to head to the bottom of the 6th. And I believe it's going to be Joey Krutnik, Jack Cafaro, and Anthony Stacy. In the perfect world, if you're Future, Joe and Jack get on base, and Anthony hits his 3rd bomb. And you reclaim the lead by 1. But like I said, as we look to the bottom of the 7th, or top of the 7th, for the 45's, they got Billy, Chris, Joe, and Danny. So they got some guys that potentially could go yard. So right now, if you're Future, you'd like to get these first 2 guys on and go to work. Because they got Anthony, Ryan, and Sam all capable, and there is a base hit. So leadoff man on, and he'll get to 2nd. So Joey Krutnik having himself a good ball game. He certainly isn't intimidated by the 45 jersey. And here comes Cafaro. And Cafaro swings, but right at Villarreal. And if you're Joe Pauly there, you really don't have a chance at Krutnik. You don't want to throw that away and give him a free run. And let's see if Stacy tries to get number 3. No, he just guides it up the middle. Good piece of hitting. You can tell he really wasn't concerned about going yard there. He just wanted to get a run. Now, if Ryan Rogers gets on and there's 2 guys up, Sam Como already has a home run. I think at that point you'd be willing to burn it. And Rogers, towering fly ball. Mike Marola calls it off. So 13-12, long one here would put and give Future the first lead of the day. High fly ball, I don't think he got enough, and it's going to stay in the park. And that'll be out number 3. So we head to the 7th, one-run ball game. Very feisty Future team hanging right in here with the 45's. So Sam got under it just a hair. Looking ahead to the bottom, it'll be Pat Donahue, JT Redis, and Joe Vandervoos. The only question is, how many will they be chasing? Of course, if you're Future, you're trying to hold it right here. Don't want to make your 7th any harder than it has to be. 45's got 3 home runs, so they got a few guys that might as well go ahead and try. And Billy Smith leans on it, and he does use home run number 2. And like we said, normally you don't want to hit solo shots, but at this point in the ball game, if you got guys that can go yard, you might as well use them. They don't do you any good when you're in your car driving home if you haven't used them. And Chris Lentine certainly's got the pops, and so does Paulie. And Chris beats it on the ground to Cafaro, not in time. Ball kind of hopped up on him a little bit. Chris, a lefty, running down the line, got there pretty easy. And I would think if you're Joe Paulie here, you're definitely thinking about maybe dipping and driving here. If you're up 2, he can put him up 4. And that would really change the situation. And he did try, but he hits the roof. Carfano can't make the catch to easily get the fielder's choice. And first baseman left. Chris is out. They went to second for the fielder's choice. Now Chris is out. They got the fielder's choice. Chris never ran. He's out at second. I don't understand why he's staying there. Jack Cafaro couldn't catch the ball. He threw it to second. So now they do call him out. I'm not quite understanding why Chris wasn't vacating the field, but he did finally. And Joe Paulie actually was going back to the dugout. Had they thrown to first, they might have got a double play out of that. And here's Villarreal as he slaps it past me over here. Rule number 1, kids, don't hit Gio when he's broadcasting. So we're seeing some strange business there. And here's Villarreal. Again, if you're Future, you're down a deuce, looking to get out of here. Villarreal drives it. That's going to sit. Ritas grabs it. He gets it in. They'll hold Paulie at third. And it brings up Israel. Now, if you're Israel here, you want to pick up this insurance run at third. I'm not quite sure here. I lost track of the outs. But if there's less than 2, if you're Israel, you want to make sure that you do not hit something on the ground and get doubled up. And he made sure. Vandervoos, that's going to score another insurance. That's good hitting there by Israel. Israel understanding that he doesn't run like he used to back in the day there. And there's a lot to be said for hitting that fly ball. A lot of times guys want to play hero ball. And Marola, and that scrapes the roof. And Villarreal makes it in, throw to second. And they are throwing the ball all over. No, Amalia, Mike Marola, it will be with the 45's this year. So he left Meatball City. So 2 outs here. 45's have picked up a couple of insurance runs. There are 2 outs, 2 more ducks on the pond, second and third. Chuck Regaldo. And Chuck just pounds it up the middle. 2 more runs will score. So the 45's doing what you expect a good team to do here late, picking up that insurance. And again, that ball was hit pretty hard, but Hexx in the earlier game and now Future have their pitchers on both teams did not really play very good defense today up the middle. And Anthony hits a little bit of a knuckleball, and Vandervoos juggled it and couldn't hold on, and another run scores. He brings up Jimmy Moretti. I don't know what the final's going to be, but I'm sure people are going to look at that and think the 45's had their way. But realistically, 10 in the first. And now 5 here, so 15 in 2 innings. And there's an overhand cut, fair ball. Anthony will make it to third. And that brings up Nate Mercado. And I got to tell you something. If I'm Future, even though I'm down 6 here, I got to walk Nate. Not because Scotty isn't a pretty solid hitter, but he's been chopping wood and hitting everything on the ground. And, you know, if you want to give yourself a shot and Nate comes right through and he drives in 2 more, sometimes you got to pick your poison. And they have not really been getting Nate out. And we ran a little thing earlier on our Facebook page where we asked the question, do managers walk enough people or do they consider it? And Scotty drills a base hit. Nate's going to come around to score 21-12. So they've exploded for 8 here. They scored 10 in the first. So they're bookending 2 big innings. So again, we will be back on the air tomorrow night with a couple more ball games. Sky ball off the roof, and they have hit a couple of balls off the roof as guys have been trying to jack out of here. Another run scores now 22-12. As this has turned into a 9-run inning, as it was 13-12 coming in. Chris Lentine should hit a home run or ball in the alley here. It could be their second 10-run inning, and he hits one off the net, 2-run homer, 24-12, so 10 in the first, 11 in the 7th, and they have absolutely blown the doors off of this one. Of course, Future is the home team, and we are in the 7th, so mercy rule has no effect here because they're going to hit in the bottom of the 7th. So here's Joe Pauly, and Joe drives it out toward the gap. Vandervoos can't make the catch as he got turned around. And Future struggling to get this last out. Another monster inning here brings up Villarreal, and there's a little chopper hit to the short center, and they get the 3rd out. So do or die, bottom of the 7th. They need 12 to keep the game going. 13 wins it for them. Anything less than the 45's are going to go to 4-0. And again, it was a good performance by Future. They could have folded up shop. Heading into the top of the 7th, it was 13-12. And the 45's just unloaded there for 11 runs. So, like I said, people are going to maybe look at this game and think it was a blowout. It really wasn't. You know, this Future team hung right in there. So it's going to be Pat Donahue, JT Reyes, and Joe Vandervoos. And there's a swing and a humpback, base hit. And again, I think if you run a team, and Jack Cafaro does run it with help from Joe Nixon and Marty Ravituso, but I think sometimes, you know, even if you end up losing this game, you want to see your team with a little fight. And JT Reyes, he gets another base hit. He drives another ball into the gap. So that ball bounced through the wall. It'll go as a ground rule double. And I got to take a run off the board here. So JT Reyes, Joe and Pat Donahoe come through with hits. So like I was saying, even if you lose this game, if you put up 4, 5, 6 runs and lose 24, 15, 16, 18, whatever, if you're kind of coaching a group, you like to see the fact that they played to the last out. And when they go to the sponsor tonight or next time, they'll be talking about how they were right there for 6 innings. And Villarreal makes the catch, not far enough for an advancement. So, looks like the 2 kids that pinch hit earlier are getting at bats, and there's a little flare, Mercado. And Mercado drops it, and they get the out at first. So you don't see that often. Runner couldn't score at third. I think if you're a runner there and you see the ball drop, you're tempted to run home, but you don't want to get thrown out. And Jordan Purrs, and this should do it. And Chuck Regaldo puts it away. So the 45's very impressive. They came out and they hammered Hexx earlier. Looked like they were going to hammer Future early. Future came back from 10-0 to tie the game at 10. They also tied it at 11. But too much 45's in the top of the 7th when they dropped an 11 on them and ran away. And so on behalf of the SSA and Sweet Buzz, this is Gio saying we hope you enjoyed the doubleheader. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll have another one. Be safe. We love you. Thanks for the interaction, everybody. We'll see you.